Okay, we're holding on Yud Ches Samad Beis. It's in the middle of the page, last word on the line. It says Gufa. Gufa means we're going to go back to analyze something that we mentioned before. We thank Hashem that they're able to learn Torah every day. And as for learning, we should have the Beis Hamikdash. Thank you. So we mentioned before, good morning. We mentioned before that Rav asked the question. Boy, Rava. Rava has a question. Yesh hadal l'tzreiris, ayin hadal l'tzreiris. Remember, tzreiris went under the category of regal. It was something normal when an animal walks, or tramples on something. Only thing is that it was indirect. And when it trampled on something, some rocks or some pebbles shot out and broke something else that wasn't exactly under its foot. So we said that was chatzi nezek, it was halacha l'meisha misinai. What happens if it does it 3 times? If it does it 3 times, do we say that type of chatzi nezek, just like by keren, which is chatzi nezek, but when you do it 3 times, it's nezek shalim? What happens over here, if you do it 3 times, does it become nezek shalim? That's one way of interpreting Rava's question. There's another way of interpreting Rava's question. What Rava's really asking is that if there's a type of tzreiris that was done in an abnormal way, in other words, instead of stepping on things, which is normal for an animal to walk, to trample, it actually kicked. Now, kicking is atypical. It's not the regular way. And when it kicked, the rocks go flying. And it didn't kick an object and break it. It kicked the rock, and the rock broke an object when it landed. So do we say that when it goes under the category of keren, do we say tzreiris that go under the category of keren? Do we say that would make it to do it 3 times? Will it become nezek shalim? So basically, the 2 ways of approaching Rava's question is: are we dealing with a orche, a regular, typical manner of walking, or are we dealing with a atypical and it's going on the keren? But whatever the case is, Rava's question is: can a half price turn into a full price after 3 times?
Is there any connection between this 3 times and when we do something 3 times? It becomes kind of
Yeah. That's based on this.
Is it for something that's normal or something that's abnormal? The question.
That's a big problem. And Rashi has 2 interpretations. We're going to see the whole Gemara is like confusing if you, it's a mess. Because Rashi alludes to one way, and actually there's a question. Rashi writes over here, Kach shamati ve'ikar. This is the pshat that I heard, and that's the main pshat. And then on the side it says, oh, take out that's the main pshat. And then we have other versions in the Gemara. We'll see soon. We'll have some parentheses that's going to throw us off a little bit as well. Okay. How do you want to learn it? Let's learn it like that we're dealing with a regular regal. Yeah, that's it's the typical manner. And it's the question is if it's doing it 3 times, if it becomes nezek shalim. Let's keep it like that. Does regal chatzi nezek by tzreiris 3 times become nezek shalim? Look, keren midamin anai. Do I compare it to keren? Just like keren is when it intentionally does damage, right? Which is half price as well. And by keren, if you do it 3 times, then it becomes full price. Idelma, or maybe told of the regular, or maybe do we say that no, it's actually a told of regal. Tzreiris is a told of regal, and we just say that it is what it is, half price for the rest of its lifetime. however long it does it. Well, let's come and listen. Tashima. Hidus. This is talking about a chicken that hops around, it dances around. One brisa says ain't a mud. The Yeshayim, another opinion says haris a mud. It is a mud. Okay, so when we say mud, what are we referring to? Because this is a little vague. In the last page of Gemara, we've been taking this brisa and we're pulling it this way, pulling it that way. You can interpret it in many different ways. So hidus al kadaitach. Do you think it's jumping around and someone's going to say that that's not a mud? That's exactly what chickens do all day. They hop around the whole day. Elahidus v'hitas. It must be that it was hopping around, and of course, when it hops around, it could break something. But here, what we're talking about, hopped around, and something shot out from under its feet, and what shot out broke something. Okay, so we turned it into a case of tzreiros. Now we're going to discuss, does tzreiros have a muad or not? Now, my love must be going David plus Zimni. It probably did it 3 times. And the machlekes in that price is Marsa v'yesh hada, Marsa v'ein hada. Machlekes is exactly Rava's question. Do we say that when it does tzreiros 3 times, it becomes a muad, becomes forewarned, when it shoots out from under its feet 3 times? Or do we say not? And that's the machlekes. And Rava had a question, the brisa has an answer, it's a machlekes. Gemara says, loy. That's not the case of the brisa. Brisa is talking about b'chad zimna. Talking about that it's doing it only 1 time, it's its first time. So why is there a machlekes? Gemara says, oh, this is a general machlekes. We plucked the sumchas for Rabbana kamiflagi. We had a general machlekes. If an animal is walking and pebbles shoot out from under its feet, where the Rabbanan hold that it's chatzi nezek, and sumchas holds that it's nezek shalim, that it's full price. So machlekes. So the brisa that says muad or not a muad, sumchas is the one that says muad, which means full price, it's forewarned, and the rabbis, they say that it's half price, which is half the value, which is it's not a muad. So far, we don't know if it does it 3 times. We thought we had a brisa that would explain that. We don't have that brisa. The brisa is talking about something else. It's talking about only doing it once. Well, Tashima, come and listen. Behema sheitila galalam liisa. Here we have an animal that when it was when it was excreting some excrement, it dropped it into a dough.
Making bread on
the animal wasn't making bread. There was a person making bread.
the
animal
who
was relieving himself, and
this is a likely this.
I'm not sure how likely it is. I don't have bread in the farm, but this could be a classic, or maybe not. I don't know. Actually, I think it says that it's not considered. What did Rashi say? Rashi says no. Ein dark lahatal golem. So we're going to see in a moment. We're going to say that's not the typical way how it makes. Okay, so we have over here Rav Yehuda, and Rashi is going to say that these are Amiraim. These are not, even though it's Tashma, come and listen, but it's really Amiraim that's saying this. Rav Yehuda is Rav Yehuda bar Yecheskel. He says, Mishalim Nesek Shalom, you have to pay full price. Rabbi Lazar, and it's Rabbi Elazar, but it's Rashi tells us that it's Rabbi Lazar ben Pedas. So it's the Amira Rabbi Lazar. Do you have that comment on the side? It doesn't comment. Because we're going to see that there's a contradiction. He says, Rabbi Lazar he says they have to pay half price. And when it comes to tzreiros, we're associating the animal relieving himself with tzreiros because it's indirect. It's not the animal actually trampling on something. It's where on Yud Chesam Advez, where the animal is, it's the secondary power that's causing damage. It's similar to the pebbles, but here it's not the pebbles that are doing it. It's coming out of his body. My love, we have a machlekes here, nezek shalem or chatzi nezek. Rav Yehuda says nezek shalem. Rabbi Elazar says chatzi nezek. It must be going to David plus zimni. It must be that it did it 3 times. Why would Rav Yehuda say that it's nezek shalem if it's not? I think we're asking over here that it's tzreiros. and we're going to come out of Bakamiflagi. Marsav Yeshada, Marsav Reinada. Rav Yehuda holds that if it does it 3 times, it's considered a muad for Treiris, and you have to pay full price. And Rabbi Elazar says that no, it always stays at its original half price. Gemara says loy b'chadzim. It's its first time that it did this. But looked at the simchas for Rabbanan Kamiflagi, and it's machlekes simchas in the Rabbanan because there's a general machlekes simchas in the Rabbanan. What's the category? What is Treiris? Is Treiris a half price? Is Treiris full price? Gemara asks v'mishunahu. But this should be considered Keren. And it should always be half price because Keren is half price. It's a Mishnah means that it's abnormal, atypical for it to do this. Gemara says Tidachik le'alma. It's not actually so abnormal. This was talking about where it was stuck in this area and there was nowhere for it to go. And the animals don't usually hold it back. They don't have that concept of let me wait till I find the bathroom. Right? They don't have that.
Usually they don't go where unless they have no choice.
Right.
Yeah. There's no room to move to relieve itself elsewhere.
Right.
They also have this 3-strike thing.
Really? Where does that come up?
A person does the same thing 3 times.
Of course.
The 3rd time they have like no mercy on them.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. We saw a yeshiva was asking for a recommendation. So the bachram in the yeshiva, if they don't show up to class, they just say they're sick, and it's very hard to. So this yeshiva asks for a recommendation. They don't say what's his attendance. They don't say that. They say how often is he sick.
You know the standard.
So they're one step ahead of the excuses. Okay. So now I'm saying like when it's the 3rd time that week, you're like, hey, what's going on over here? I have a stomachache, I have a headache.
They don't have a note from the doctor.
No, they can't because they live in the yeshiva. The Lema, the Gemara asks, Lema Rabbi Yehuda alacha kasimchas, or Lema Rabbi Elazar alacha karabanan.
Yeah. The resident.
He said, why doesn't Rabbi Yehuda say that the halach is like simchas? If what's happening here, the way the Gemara just adjusted this, so we don't have it. We're not really talking about if tzreiris 3 times becomes a muad or not. We're talking about what is the halacha by tzreiris when pebbles shoot out, or in this case it was the animal relieving himself. So we just said that the machlekes is do we go like do we follow Sumchas or do we follow the Rabbanan? Is it full price or half? So the Gemara says, why doesn't he just say, Rabbi Yehuda says halach is like Sumchas, and Rabbi Elazar says halach is like the Rabbanan? Let him just say that. We don't need a whole new case. Just tell us who they want to paskin like. The Gemara says, no, it's telling us a chiddush. This case is significant, even if they would just say halach is like Sumchas, halach is like the Rabbanan. But they want to add in that when the animal relieves himself, I could have thought I could have thought that material was inside the animal before, so it's considered the animal. It's not considered something separate from the animal, and they could have thought that it's not considered tzreiris. So kamash malan, it comes to this the fact that it tells us in this case specifically about this animal relieving himself is telling us that no, it is a case of tzreiris, and Rabbi Elazar holds that it's chatzi nezek because tzreiris is chatzi nezek, and Rabbi Yehuda says that it's nezek shalim because tzreiris is nezek shalim, but it's telling us that it's tzreiris. Okay, Tashema. Come and listen to Tani Rami by Yecheskel. Rami by Yecheskel taught Tanagayla Shaishet Reishay Lavir Kli Zechuches. A chicken that stuck his head into a beaker, some sort of glass tube or something, a glass vase, or I don't know, some glass vessel. V'takabai, and it started to cock-a-doodle-doo, and v'shavrei, and it broke it from the noise. Shalim Nesek Shalim has to pay full price. No, it broke the glass from the noise.
From noise, yeah.
From the vibration from the noise.
He put his beak in the beaker.
Put his beak in the beaker, right? Wasn't there this thing, this instrument that what's his name? Benjamin Franklin had this glass that would spin. He would spin it, I think, with his feet, and would play it with his fingers. It would spin like glass cups, like but they were like sideways. And was there a problem with it or something? Well, it could reach very high pitches.
Mozart wrote music for that instrument. When he heard the instrument, he said, "There's no sound like this in any other instrument in the orchestra." He would write music for it, and you can get that. The records of this stuff, and it's a whole set of people play this thing.
Oh, really?
It's atypical. It's like this rooster.
Yeah, there's a legend about Nicholas Tesla that he had this machine that had it could reach a certain vibration that could destroy buildings or something. Anyway, he couldn't get it to turn off or something, and it was anyway, he was there breaking it with the hammer. He was a little crazy. Anyway, okay. So the chicken breaks it, and the chicken has to pay Nesek Shalim. Not the chicken, the owner of the chicken, of course. The chicken doesn't have any money. Amar Rabbi Yosef, Amri Beirav, Rabbi Yosef says that they said in the yeshiva of Rav, or they said in the yeshiva, Beirav doesn't have to be Rav's yeshiva, it could mean just Beirav, house of the teacher. Sus Shetzanaf, a horse that, what's the horse do? Neighs? Horse neighs, right? Chamar Shanir, and the donkey that brays. Did I get that right?
Human praise.
And it broke vessels. Mishalim Chatzinesek, you have to pay half price. Wow. So Rami Bar Yecheskel says full price. They say half price. My love, going to Avet Zimni. Must mean we must be talking about that it did it 3 times. About Kamifalgin, the machlekes between Rami Bar Yecheskel and Rabbi Yosef, or the yeshiva of Rav, it's Mar Savar Yeshada, Mar Savar Einada. We're still looking for an answer to Rav's question. That maybe if it does it 3 times, it's considered a muad. Where it says Lai Bechad Zimna plukta the Simchas for Rabbanan Kamifalgi, it's talking about that it did it 1 time, and it's a machlekes between Simchas and Rabbanan, a very general machlekes. What's the halacha by tzreiros? We're considering this tzreiros because it's the secondary. It's not like it banged it. Oh, the glass harmonica. Yeah. Why? I thought that there was a problem with it. Why are glass harmonicas illegal? Do you see that? Accused of causing evil such as nervous disorders, animal convulsions. Banned from Germantown by police decision for ruining the health of people and disturbing public order. A child died during a concert.
So they had a concert of this instrument. I was going to bring it in, but
it has to be true. It's on the internet. Okay, so plukta the simchas for Rabbanan. This is a very general machlekes. The Gemara says, "V'meshunu." Why would anyone say that it's nezek shalim? This is abnormal for animals to put their heads into glass things and to start braying and neighing and what do chickens do? Cock-a-doodle doing. So the Gemara says, no, it's not. The ispe bizrani, it had seeds inside, which is absolutely normal for an animal to put his head in and to eat the seeds. I don't know why I'm imagining that the chicken put his head in and somehow couldn't get his head out. Like you could get in and then, but it's not necessarily the case. It didn't mention anything about that. Okay.
You see the reflection on this glass. I start picking up.
That's interesting. Ravashi has another question. Yesh shini l'tzreiris l'reviya nezek, v'yein shini l'tzreiris l'reviya nezek. Let's say, Rashi's question is interesting. It's sort of the opposite side of Rava's question. Rava's question was that if it does tzreiris 3 times, should it become nezek shalim? Right? If the pebbles shoot out 3 times, should it be nezek? Rashi's question is, if the pebbles shoot out, not because of normal walking, but because of an abnormal walking, of kicking, which is abnormal, do we say that since tzreiris is normally half price, now when you do it in an atypical manner, it should be a quarter of the price because it's half of the half price. So normally it's regel, which is regular. But here it's keren, which is atypical. So it should be half of what would be normal, which is half of half is a quarter. That's Rav Ashi's question. It goes like this. The Gemara says, well, we can answer this question based on Rava's question, which means that since Rava has this question, has his own question about if it could be full price, so then the boy Rava Rava asked if you do it 3 times, if it becomes full price. If you do it 3 times, it becomes full price, then obviously doing it once was half price. So what's he talking about? Doing it once should be a quarter price. Michlal, this Rava's question implies the Shine, that there's no such thing as a quarter price. Because he had a question, you do it 3 times, it should become full price. Now, if the Gemara was asked, if Rava's question was referring to an abnormal type of tzreiris, doing it 3 times doesn't become a muad, then I understand what the Gemara is saying here. But if Rava's question is when it's regel and you do it 3 times, does it become full price? And Rav Ashi's question is if it's keren, does it become half price? Then those are independent questions. Yeah, I'm not sure how they resolve this. Okay, Dilma Rava, maybe Rava imtim talayma kamar. Maybe Rava, what he meant to say was imtim talayma. That means if you go this way, then I'll ask you this question. Imtim talayma ein shinoi. If you hold that it's always going to be chatzi nezik, it's always going to be half price, even if it's in an abnormal way. Yeshada yenada. In other words, I'm not saying that it's half price. And if you do it 3 times, it should be full price. I'm saying that it could be that it's a quarter price. It could be that it's half price. If it is half price, if you do it 3 times, does it become full price? Yeah, that problem of what was Rava's question is still there. Was Rava's question on Shinoi of tzreiris, or was it regular? That question is still okay. By Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi has another question. Oh, I missed the main point. Teku. The Gemara leaves it as a question. Okay.
Oh,
Rav Ashi's question, the Gemara leaves as a question.
the first take we've had in a while.
Could be. Yeah, there's more to come. A few more on this page, actually.
Oh.
Another 4 or 5. By Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi's question is, Simchas holds that tzreiris are full price. If pebbles shoot out, you have to pay the full price. He doesn't have that halacha l'mesh misinai that says that it's half price if pebbles shoot out and breaks them. However, what if it's kayach kaychay? What if pebbles shoot out and one of the pebbles hits another pebble and that pebble shoots out and breaks something? Do I say that that's half price? Now, why should I think like that? It says, mi gomer halacha mukila b'kayach kaychay. Aydilma lay gomer halacha klal teku. You know, there is a halacha l'mish misinai that says tzreiris is half price. So how does how does Simchas hold that Tzreiris is not half price, that it's full price? So we have a simple answer. Simchas has the halacha l'meishem misinai, but he doesn't put it on the first time that it's removed. He puts it on the second time that it's removed. So machlekes is, when do you apply the halacha l'meishem misinai? Do you apply it to the first pebble that shoots out, or do you apply it to the second pebble that shoots out from the first pebble that shot out? Or do we say that he doesn't have the halacha l'meishem misinai at all? Okay. Now, I forgot the name of the sefer. I think it's called Halacha L'Meishem Misinai. It's about a problem that with the Rambam, with the Rambam's opinion. Rambam writes that there's no machlekes in Halacha L'Meishem Misinai. And one of the big problems with this is Simchas. Simchas, according to, at least to this Gemara, he says that there is no halacha l'meishem misinai, according to one opinion. But the Gemara says teiku. Okay, we leave it as a teiku. We're going back to the Mishnah. Is this the Mishnah or is this the Brisa? This is the Mishnah. If an animal was kicking. Now, if an animal kicks, we know that that's Karen, right? Animals don't normally kick. They walk, that's normal, that's regular. But kicking is something that kavanasi lahazik, it's intending to cause damage, and that would not be considered regular. Or if tzreiros are shooting out, tzreiros are the pebbles that are shooting out from under its feet while it's walking, and it doesn't have the mud guard on behind it. So v'shavra sakelim, and it breaks utensils. So in both of those cases, mishalim chatzi nezik, you have to pay half price. So Karen is half price and tzreiros is half price. The yeshiva has a question. Heichi Kamar, what's the meaning of the Mishnah? If it was kicking, case number one. V'hizika b'biyuta, and it caused damage by kicking. Okay, that's the case. Oi, what's case number two? Tzreiros kirachayim, regular trampling, regular walking, and tzreiros shootout. So in both of those cases, mishalim chatzi nezik b'rabbanan, you pay half price, and that's the opinion of the rabbanan, that tzreiros are half price. Or I have another way of reading that Mishnah. It was kicking, and it damaged with kicking. Case number one. Case number two is or while it was kicking, tzreiros went shooting out, but it was kicking. Rocks went shooting out, and those rocks broke something else, and you have to pay chatzi nezik, you have to pay half price. Now, what that would imply, that why do I have to pay half price there? Not because it was rocks that were shooting out, but because it was Karen. It was kicking. It was kavanah lahazik. It had intention to cause damage. And intentional damage is an abnormal way for an animal to behave, and you only have to pay half price on that. Really, you shouldn't have to pay anything. It's a knas, right? That's what we concluded, that it was a penalty. That we want you to watch the animal from now on. But if it would be walking normal and tzreiros would come out, mishalim nezik shalom, you'd probably have to pay full price. Well, who holds that? Mani simchasi, that would be simchas. So is our Mishnah the Rabbanan, and the tzreiros are regular and it's half price? Or is our Mishnah simchas, and the tzreiros that are half price? We're talking about because it's tzreiros that come from Karen. Tashma. So Tashma miseifa, coming here from the end of the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Darsa ala keli v'shavrata, if it steps on a utensil, on a vessel, and it breaks it, what do you want to say?
First of all, Black Friday, everything will be half price, even Simchas will be half price. I want to say about glass harmonicas.
Dr. Stein said that Black Friday, Simchas only charges half price.
And going glass harmonicas, despite the fact that historically there was a story about people getting sick from this, that, which probably was totally irrelevant, just incidentally, a kid got sick in the audience, this and that. I think the problem with glass harmonicas was in those days, glass was leaded glass. So the people who played glass harmonicas got lead poisoning from chronic lead poisoning. and they got sick, not the audience. And I mean, I think that's the only reality to glass, which is probably why he eventually stopped glass harmonicas. Yeah, because Arlo Guthrie and Bob Dylan had no problems with the harmonicas.
Thank you for clearing that up for us.
Glass. What, Naftali?
I said, thank you for clearing that up.
Oh, yeah.
Please add it to the
Wasting a
table.
minute, yeah. Sorry.
How do you get poisoning from rubbing?
Probably because they
rubbing
lick,
it?
they
From
would
the
lick
lips, and
the.
eventually chronically,
I think they had to make it moist.
They take it out of there, they dip it in.
Oh yeah.
You do
look, I
that?
mean, like the iron skillets would give people iron poisoning chronic from the
Cooking
iron absorbed in the food, you know. Aluminum toxicity came from things that were in the aluminum. Well, not paint, which any the kids ate the lead paint. But I mean, enough.
Okay.
I think Rennie's working part-time for Wikipedia.
Yeah, okay. So the Sefer says Dar Sal Kelev Shabrate. I hear myself talking on the headphones. So if he steps on a the animal steps on the vessel, he breaks it. And then one of the broken pieces, one of the shards, shoot out and they break something else. So on the first one you pay full price. That's just trampling. And on the second one, on that last one, you pay half price. Okay. Now, if we would say the Mishnah is sumchas, that was one of our options. We said, so what was the case of Tzoros? Why was it half price? We said that was because it was atypical, because he was kicking it. It wasn't that it was trampling. But if it's sumchas, would the sumchas have chatzi nezek? Over here, look what happened. The vessel broke, a shard shoots out and breaks another vessel. It's chatzi nezek. Maybe what you want to say, go like this. Rishon is Rishon La'ataza. When it says the first vessel, when it says the first one you pay chatzi nezek, that's not talking about the one that he stepped on. That's talking about the one that broke because the shard shot out and broke it. So that's really the second vessel. And B'Sheni is Sheni La'ataza. And when it says the second one is half price, it doesn't mean the second one. It means the third one. Because the first one that he broke with his foot, a shard went out and broke the next one. And that a shard shot out from that one and broke another one. So, maybe Sumchas actually makes a difference between if it's the first step removed or if it's the second step removed. The Gemara says, that's what you want to say, Ravashi, but Ravashi had a question about that. He said, why doesn't Ravashi answer his question? Why does Ravashi have a question? Here, this is a funny way of looking at questions. But here, the fact that Ravashi had a question means that he can't answer. According to this, he could have answered it. So that means that this must be wrong. So we can't say that the Mishnah is talking about Sumchas. Gemara says, no. Mishnah could still be Sumchas. However, Ravashi learned the Mishnah that Ravashi Karabanan Mukila. Ravashi learns the Mishnah like the Rabbanan. And his question was like this: if it was kicking and it caused damage by kicking, that's a regular case of Karen, you have to pay half price. Or if there were regular Tzoros, it was walking and pebbles shot out. Chatzi nezek. But if it would be because of kicking, then it would be Reviya nezek. Dilma, or maybe so Teku. Ravashi has a question, but Ravashi is learning the Mishnah according to the Rabbanan, and even according to the Rabbanan, there is a question over here of what would happen if it would be a shinoi in the Tzoros. Shinoi means an atypical way of causing the pebbles to shoot out. Would that become a quarter, which was Ravashi's question as well, right? Ravashi, no, that was Ravashi's question as well. Was there a quarter or not? So in other words, what happens now is Rav Ashi learns the Mishnah according to the Rabbanan. Based on that, he has a question: is there such a thing as a quarter nezek? Right? But if you don't learn the Mishnah like the Rabbanan, then we have a question: could the Mishnah be Sumchus or not? And if it is Sumchus, then we would have a proof that there is Kayach Kaychai becomes half price. 2 steps removed becomes half price. Boimine Rab Abba Bar Mamal me Rabami. Bamila me Rab Chia Bar Abba. These are Rab Chia Bar Abba and Rabami are students of Rabbi Yochanan. So his question, Rab Abba Bar Mamal's question is like this: if he's walking in a place that it's impossible to walk without the things shooting out. However, he didn't just rely on the animal that's making messes, didn't just rely on the natural walking and causing pebbles to shoot out. He actually kicked as well. And when he kicked, it caused damage. What's the halacha? Even the yafshala orchio. Do we say that it's just half price because it was going to happen anyway? Or do we say that the fact is he did kick it, so it should be a quarter price? Or do we say that, well, that happens anyway, even without the kicking? So we leave that as a question. It's a funny take because we didn't even know if there was Revi and Nezek in the first place. And now we don't know if we do say Revi and Nezek, do you say Revi and Nezek in a case where it would have happened anyway? Okay. Okay, you're expecting all of these questions are classic Rabbi Yirmiyah type questions, but Rabbi Yirmiyah doesn't drop this amazing opportunity for some good questions, and he comes in. He asks Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Yirmiyah and Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera was Rabbi Yirmiyah's teacher. Always, all the questions that we have is Rabbi Yirmiyah asking Rabbi Zera.
For like a public domain?
No, the last question was talking about in a private domain, because whenever we're dealing with shreiros, it needs to be in a private area. In the victims, the reason is because if it's a under the category of regel, then that's going to be exempt in a public domain. It has to be in the private domain. Yeah. Keren is chayav if it's atypical and it's chayav in a public area, but if it is typical, then it's only chayav in a private area. Because the animals are allowed to walk in public areas in a regular way, and you don't have to pay for anything that it tramples on or anything that it eats. If it's in an area where it's allowed to be, then you don't have to pay for those typical damages. You only have to pay for atypical damages in the public area. That's the logic of it. Animals are walking around, and animals are animals. They walk, and you don't have to pay for what they.
So since it's in the damage property, they have to pay. Regardless, it's just a question of how much.
Yeah. If it's Keren in the damaged use property, then Reb Tarfon holds its full price, and the Rabbanan holds half price. If it's Tzreiris, then the Rabbanan holds its half price, and Simchus holds its full price. If it's Tzreiris that comes from Keren, that's a question from Rav Ashi. If it's Tzreiris that's 3 times, then it's a question of Rava. There's a lot going on over here. Okay, now Rabbi Yirmiyah's question is: walking in a public area. Now let's drop the word ubata. It's in parentheses, right? Let's leave it out. V'itiza v'izika ma'u, and it shoots out pebbles and it causes damage. Ma'u. What's the halacha? L'keren medamin lavachayevus. Since it's half price, Rabbi Yirmiyah is asking. We should compare it to Keren. And half price in public areas is chayev. Keren is chayev in a public area. I know this is regel, but nevertheless it's half price. Maybe it's the half price part of Keren that makes you chayev in the public area. Do we say now it's a talda of regel and it's pater because regel is exempt in the public area? Amalei, so he tells him back. Reb Zera says, "Mistarba told the regular." It's probably told the regal. That's logical, and you're going to be exempt. Let's say it's walking in the public area, but the pebbles that shoot out into the private area. So the damage is caused in the private area. If the damage, if the act of uprooting it from the ground is not here, you're exempt from the time, from the location of where it shot out from is an exempt location. So you're going to say that you're going to be chayav because of where it lands. Okay. Eisvei, Rabbi Yirmi asked him a question. He's walking on the road and it shoots out, whether in a private area or public area, chayav. Maybe it's talking about that it shot out from a pub. He's asking a question on this. Zera's first response to him. Even in a public area, you should be chayav. Because walking in a public area, it shot out and it damaged in the public area, you should be chayav. You told me that you're going to be pati. You said that it's a category of regal. So Reb Zera says, "Loi, it is a b'shus ram v'zik b'shus yachid." We're talking about that it shot out from a public area into a private area. But you told me that should be exempt because if you don't have the basis when it's in the location where the damage was started, you're exempt. So where the damage actually happens, for sure you're going to be exempt. Amalei Hajibi says, I retracted from that. You have nothing. He says, why not? Yeah. Exactly. Esvei has another question. Quotes the Mishnah. Steps on a vessel and he breaks it. Then he steps on it. Then that shard breaks out, shoots out and breaks another vessel. First one is full price. The second one is half price. The Brisa says, where would we say that you're chayav when you step on something? Only in the damagee's property. Because if it's in a public area, it's allowed to be walking. You're going to be exempt. But if it would be in a public area, you're going to be chayav on the second one. Wow, it sounds like you're going to be chayav on tzreiros in Rosh Hashanah. And Reb Zera said that you're pater for tzreiros, you're exempt. My lavi tisa b'shus ram v'zika b'shus rabim. Probably it broke in a public area and it's damaged in the public. It shot out into a private area, and that's why you're going to be chayav chatzi nezik. But you told me that if you don't have the basis, then you don't have the chiyav when it. He says, I changed my mind about that. Eini, is this really so? Rabbi Yechanan says we don't distinguish between in anything that's half price between public and private areas. We think we're talking about Karen. We think we're also talking about tzreiros. Kasha and Reb Zera. My love, even if the tzreiros is in a public area, the Gemara says, it's talking about when it shot out from the public area but damaged in the private area, that's when you're going to be chayav. He doesn't give up. He says, but you told me that that's not so. He says, I said I changed my mind about that. It's sort of like, leave me alone already. Okay.
Is this the same question with carrying on Shabbos?
The terms are, terms of the
because there it would not consider carrying.
Right.
So why can't you apply?
Exactly. That's what Reb Zera was. It looks like Reb Zera is borrowing a Hilchah Shabbos statement. Iba Yesema. If you want, you can answer this a little different. You could say, Kim Rabbi Yechanan a Karen. Rabbi Yechanan was talking about Karen, he wasn't talking about tzreiros. When Rabbi Yechanan says, Ein chatzi nezek cholok, that when you pay half price, there's no difference between public and private areas. He's talking about that intentional damage is going to be high both in Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Hashanah. Yosef Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya Rabbi Shia, Akila de Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya and Rabbi Shia are sitting on the entrance of Rabbi Yehuda's house. Nafik Milsim Binayo, they're discussing over there. Kishkisha biznava. If it wags its tail in a public area, mahu, what's going to be the halacha? The other one says, what do you have to hold it by its tail? You have to tie up its tail. That's considered the normal way of walking, and you're going to be exempt. Where animals wag their tails when they walk. So what about the horns? You said the horns, if it gores, it's chayiv. What are you going to do? Tie its horns up? It says, Karen lav orchil. When it damages with the horn, that's atypical. Ha orche, this is regular walking. And so, so what was your question? If it's regular walking, his question was if it does extra wagging, if that's considered normal or not. And he says that it's considered normal. Boy Ravena has a question. Let's say it's not wagging its tail, it's wagging its male organ. Do we say that it's just like intentional damage? What happens by intentional damage? What when it does intentional damage, it doesn't have a yetzer hara that's making it violent. Here also, the animal's yetzer hara is causing it to move his organ. Maybe this wasn't intention for damage, so I had other intentions. So Teku, the Gemara leaves that as a question. Okay, let me finish till the Mishnah. Chickens, they are forewarned when they jump around and they break. Over there, the Mishnah added in that if a string got tied to it and the bucket got tied to its foot and it caused damage. We're thinking now that it caused damage because someone trips over it. So we said, when did it? How did the string get tied to the foot? It got tied because it naturally just got knotted up. But if a person tied it to the chicken's foot, then he's going to be chayiv. Niksher me'elav man chayiv. Who do you want to make chayiv if it got just tangled up around its foot? Do you want to make the owner of the bucket chayiv? Echidami. How is he going to be chayiv? Did he hide his bucket in his string? Then anasu. How did the chicken get a hold of it? You can't make him responsible for that. Somehow the chicken jumped into his thing and it got the bucket out and it got tangled. And if he didn't hide it, then he should be negligent. And I guess that would be obvious that he's chayiv. Or rather, why would we say that it's half price? You have to pay full price. We're talking about that the chicken is chayiv. Why doesn't he have to pay full price? It must be because how did the damage take place over here? Because someone trips over it. Now the rule is by a bar that if someone trips on it, that you have to pay full price. But that's because someone dug the bar, someone dug the pit. But over here it was an animal that dug it. So chatzin nezek nami ish bar. So why does he have to pay half price? The whole rule of a pit is only if the animal dug it. Elamasnisin, our Mishnah is talking about the adiyadui. How do they translate that? Adiyadui, that it was moving around. It damaged not because of a pit, it damaged because it like banged into something, I think. And what did Rav Huna mean when he says that this depends on who tied it on? It was talking about something else. The lil hefker. If there was a bucket that didn't belong to anyone, Amar Rav Huna says Nikshem Elef Pater. If it gets tangled up on its own, he's exempt. Kasher Adam, but if a person tied it on, then chayiv. Mishum my chayiv, what's he chayiv on? Amar Rav Huna bar manayach mishum barim eskalgal brag liadam brag behema. That there is a concept of a bar that moves around, that animals or people are kicking around, and then someone gets damaged on it. So that's why it would be chayiv. Okay. A bar, you see, a tolda bar is anything that any stumbling. It's called a tolda bar. Okay, we'll leave it over here. We'll learn tonight, Bezos Hashem.